Devin. I work the overnight shift at ABC News. On the night of September 26th, I saw that one of the affiliate reporters had tweeted about someone who had been rescued at sea. I sent it around, but of course we didn't have too many of the details besides that he'd been found.
He was found in a life raft with a life jacket on. He was reported to be in good condition.
They sent Lindsay Janis.
ABC's Lindsay Janis.
Lindsay Janis has that story for us.
The freighter he is on is due to arrive in Boston.
When I first heard about the Nathan Carman story, it looked like an inspiring story of survival.
The son rescued off Martha's Vineyard.
Nathan had gone out on this fishing boat with his 54-year-old mother, Linda, and never returned. The Coast Guard combed hundreds of miles of ocean in vain, and they'd just given up hope when the call came in. A young man found alone, floating on a life raft.
Found alive in good condition.
The stunning discovery made in the open ocean by this Chinese freighter carrying scrap metal, about 100 miles south of Ram Point Marina in Rhode Island, where he'd set sail.
They'll get the chance to speak with Nathan Carman Tuesday night.
Nathan, this is United States Coast Guard, Boston. I need to understand what happened.
Yeah, we all do. But so far, the only explanation? This short radio call from the Coast Guard to Nathan aboard that freighter.
Mom and I, two people, myself and my mom, were fishing at Block Canyon, and there was a funny noise in the engine compartment. When I saw the life raft, I did not see my mom. Have you found her?
No, we haven't been able to find her yet.
The next day, Nathan arrives in Boston, the questions waiting for him at the dock.
The most important question is, how did you survive and not your mother?
When we first see him, he shows little emotion. His 6'3" frame awkwardly appareled in the white crew suit he was given after his rescue. That night, Nathan returns to his home in rural Vermont and makes his first public statement.
I would just like to thank the public for their prayers and for their concern for both my mother and for myself. Emotionally, I've been through a huge amount, and my request is just to be allowed to mourn naturally.
It seems that's all he has to say. But then Nathan decides to grant us an exclusive interview. He instructs us to meet him on this bench. He seems anxious, traumatized.
I'm not sure how best to say this.
Worried he won't look or sound good on camera.
Oh, Lord, may you help us to...
He even prays about it.
May you help me to accurately and effectively express what I've been through.
There's a reason Nathan doesn't speak in the tongues of angels. He's been diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, which is on the autism spectrum, associated with social awkwardness and flat, measured speech patterns.
Let's begin, if we could, with the fishing trip.
Our conversation will last into the night, but it ends up a fragmented account with plenty of blank spaces.
I'm not going to go into that now. I'm not going to answer that. I'm not going to go there.
But Nathan is able to provide more details about that ordeal at sea.
My mom and I fished very frequently together. That's the primary thing that we did to spend time with one another. We fished probably every other week.
Despite his humble appearance, it turns out Nathan is actually from a wealthy New England family, the first of many surprises. His mom, Linda, a nurse who worked with autism patients, didn't even like to eat fish, but she loved catching them with Nathan. In this Facebook posting, she said there was no better way to connect. Nathan had purchased this 31-foot fishing boat named the Chicken Pox after seeing it advertised online. He says that on September 17th, he and his mom set out for that fateful trip just before midnight.
These fishing trips, you would often leave, at night or in the early hours of the morning?
That's correct. We met at the marina in Rhode Island, got all of our gear on board, pushed off from the dock.
Nathan wanted that night to be different. He says that instead of the usual trip of about 20 miles to Block Island for striped bass, he decided to go deep-sea tuna fishing to that area called Block Canyon.
That's much farther offshore.
That's offshore fishing.
It takes all night to get there. The seabed here drops from a few hundred feet below the surface to 1,000 feet or deeper. A perfect spot for those giant tuna they were after.
I have experience boating. I have experience fishing. I did not have experience offshore fishing.
But Nathan was comfortable making the trip because he says the seas were calm. After a smooth cruise through the night,
We arrived just as the sun was rising.
Nathan says the new day was perfect. They set their lines and fished for tuna, all by themselves. They have life vests on board, but weren't wearing them. Hours passed. It was midday when he says the trouble started.
So what happened? What went wrong?
I heard a noise.
A funny noise coming from the engine.
The engine sounded different. I looked in the hatch where the engine was. I observed there was water, quite a bit of water. And the belt on the engine was picking up water and kind of spinning it.
What did you think?
I knew that there was a serious problem, but I didn't think we were sinking. I thought that I was going to diagnose the problem and that we were going to go back to shore.
He says he closed the hatch and shut off the engine. He says he told his mother to gather the fishing lines in the rear, while he says he brought the ditch bags full of safety gear up to the front. But he says to his shock, in no time, the boat was underwater.
I was walking on the deck, it was there, and then it wasn't.
Any sign of your mother at this point?
No, not at that point.
He claims he was totally disoriented, doesn't remember hearing his mother or seeing her. The life raft was designed to inflate automatically. Nathan says he swam to it.
I got on board the life raft and was looking around, and I was calling out to my mom. I did not see or hear my mom. And I was blowing the whistle with 3 loud, short bursts, which is a distress signal.
So if she had been on the surface of the water, you feel like you would have been able to see her?
I assumed that if she had been on the surface and conscious, that she would have been calling out to me and I would have been able to find her. But I didn't know why that hadn't happened.
Now, by his account, he was all alone in a kind of floating tent, a tiny speck of orange in a vast gray sea. As night fell, he was drifting in the darkness. Like Tom Hanks in Castaway, Nathan says he spent days alone out in the open water until, just like the movie, the freighter that saved Nathan, aptly named the Orient Lucky, was docked when we intercepted it later that week. They'd recorded this remarkable footage of the rescue. Look here. That little figure is Nathan, clinging to a life preserver, clinging to life, then jumping into the churning seas as the ship struggles to stay close enough to grab him.
We could see he was very tired, exhausted. He rested for a while, clinging onto the ladder. Our crew helped him to get on board the ship.
I was no longer lost, and that's when I allowed myself to feel relief.
What was going through your mind?
I'm safe.
It's a compelling, heartstring-tugging story of loss and survival.
That I love my mother. Present tense, I love my mother.
But is it also something more?
Police want to know what role, if any, Nathan Carman played in his mother's disappearance.
Wait a second. Was this just an accident?
Is his story really the whole story? As more details emerge, the portrait of the young fisherman takes on a darker hue.
It paints a very troubling picture as to what was Nathan's intent.